Hey guys, tonight we dive into a time and place where the scent of freedom was hidden inside perfume bottles, and the shimmer of Western luxury had to be unwrapped like contraband treasure. It's the USSR, baby, and you're about to step into a world where people risked everything for a pair of jeans, a stick of gum, or the whisper of something not made here. You probably won't survive this, honestly. Not because of gulags or spies, but because you'd never last a week without Amazon. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where everyone's tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in a musty kitchen, the type with peeling floral wallpaper and a refrigerator that hums like it's carrying state secrets. Your Aunt Lena, with curlers in her hair and slippers 2 sizes too big, carefully opens a rusted tin can. The label's been scraped off, and it smells like aluminum and aftershave. But inside is velvet, literal velvet, carefully folded and still bearing the faint aroma of French perfume. She plucks out a tiny bottle of Chanel No. 5 like it's plutonium. She dabs your wrist and hisses, "Don't tell anyone. Not even your goldfish." This, you learn, is how Western goods arrive, not through airports or stores, but through sardine cans, false-bottom suitcases, and untraceable favors. Officially, none of this exists. But everyone knows someone who can get you what your heart desires, for a price. In the USSR, foreign luxury wasn't just expensive, it was illegal. Western items represented not only indulgence but ideological betrayal. A stick of juicy fruit might as well be a miniature Statue of Liberty. Yet here it is, sticky and slightly melted, offered by your neighbor's teenage son like contraband from a moon mission. He smiles sheepishly. "American," he whispers. "Real." Historians still argue whether the state's intense censorship of Western goods helped fuel their mythos or merely highlighted the absurdity of deprivation. Either way, it's clear, people didn't just want jeans, they wanted what the jeans symbolized. Independence. Rebellion. But that didn't sag. You walk to the communal hallway where the scent of boiled cabbage lingers like a bad decision. There, 2 girls are whispering over a worn lipstick tube. Revlon Fire and Ice, smuggled in by someone's second cousin who worked on a Baltic cargo ship. Each girl takes a turn applying it, then blotting with a newspaper clipping of Brezhnev's speech. Irony's not lost on them. Your cousin Misha shows you a magazine, not Pravda, but Vogue, 1982, creased and held together with tape and prayers. He's been renting it out to schoolmates by the hour. 2 kopecks for page 5. He grins. But page 17 costs 3. That's the one with shoulder pads. You glance at it. It's Joan Collins. She's judging you through time. It's not just cosmetics and magazines. Once, your uncle smuggled a bottle of Pepsi in a baby powder tin. Another time, your father returned from a fishing trip with 3 nylon stockings, 2 Bic lighters, and 1 very suspicious-looking Casio calculator. All bartered, hidden, or traded. Never bought. The idea of a Western shop, bright, open, full of smiling clerks and music, feels more like a fever dream than a marketplace. A strange economy blooms in this underground world. Perfume becomes currency. Empty shampoo bottles hold more value than rubles. And that tin can? It gets refilled with cinnamon gum, wrapped in cigarette foil, and passed on. There's one woman in your building, no one knows her real name. You only ever see her in the elevator, arms full of plastic bags with British logos, Tesco, Boots, M&S. Rumor has it she's part of a Farstov cheeky ring, the shadow traders who make their living sneaking across borders or bribing customs agents for access to forbidden delights. She once traded a Western bra for a washing machine belt. That's how unhinged the barter system is. A joke floats around your school. Question: how do you know it's real Chanel? A. It came in a sardine tin and gave Grandma a rash. You laugh. But quietly. The day ends as Aunt Lena carefully reseals the tin. She places it inside a hollowed-out dictionary titled History of the Communist Party, Volume 3. The irony is so rich, it needs its own visa. You fall asleep that night thinking of velvet in cans, plastic bags that travel more than people, and the scent of someone else's freedom clinging to your wrist. There's a strange magic to it all. Not the kind with wands or dragons, but the kind that makes a banned Coca-Cola bottle sparkle like treasure beneath a flickering kitchen light. The next morning, you wake to the slow creak of pipes and the distant radio crackle of Soviet marching songs. Outside, the air smells of coal smoke and damp newspapers. Inside, your shoes crunch slightly on the cracked linoleum floor, because your cousin spilled some imported sugar last night, and in this house, that counts as a crime of passion. You're meeting someone in the park. Not for a stroll. Not to feed pigeons. You're making a deal. Your hands are shaking, partly from cold, partly from nerves. The park is nearly empty except for a babushka sitting on a splintering bench. She looks harmless, wrapped in layers of faded scarves with a thermos cradled in her lap. She might be selling homemade pickles. She might be selling band cassette tapes. You sit. She doesn't look at you. Doesn't say hello. You wait. You've been told to. After a full minute, she asks, "Do you like the wind today?" It's not a question about the weather. It's the code phrase. You answer. It carries the scent of Prague. That's the signal. She shifts, opens her thermos, and out slides a tightly rolled pair of jeans. Not just any jeans, Levi's. You're holding more than denim. You're holding proof that the West exists. That it glitters. That it fits. Your classmates would sell their grandparents for these. In Soviet Russia, jeans were a revolution you wore on your hips. Historians still argue whether denim was the most dangerous fabric in the USSR. Not because of its weave, but because of what it signified: casual rebellion, imported culture, and the promise of a life where your pants didn't make you look like a tragic bus driver. These particular jeans are second-hand, a bit faded, slightly torn at one knee. You don't care. They smell like freedom and someone else's cologne. You hand over 2 bottles of aspirin, a Finnish chocolate bar, and a German lighter. The babushka takes them, nods, and begins sipping tea as if she hadn't just delivered ideological contraband. You don't dare try them on in public. Instead, you fold them into a newspaper and tuck them beneath your coat. The weight of them presses against your ribs like an unspoken truth. At school the next day, your best friend Ruslan eyes the paper bundle bulging under your coat. You give him the look, not now. But at lunch, in the empty music room, the two of you huddle like archaeologists over a priceless relic. Ruslan whistles low. "They even have the orange stitching," he says. "Did you hear they once strip-searched a kid at customs because of these?" You nod. It's a well-known urban legend, a boy returning from East Germany with Levi's sewn into the lining of his coat. The guards found them. His coat was burned. His Levi's were confiscated and, rumor has it, worn proudly by a border guard for the next 6 months. You hold up your pair to the gray winter light filtering through the dusty window. They shimmer slightly, and you feel a little taller just imagining them on your legs. A little bolder. A little more not from here. Jeans weren't available in Soviet stores. Officially, they were decadent, unnecessary, and exploitative. Unofficially, every Komsomol youth dreamed of them. They were whispered about in dormitories, featured on smuggled posters, and listed in black market notebooks like fine wine. Wrangler, lightly worn, size 28, smells faintly of Marseille. Ruslan has something to trade. He reaches into his bag and pulls out a magazine clipping, a real ad from a Western fashion brand, torn carefully from an illicit copy of Der Spiegel. The model is smiling, carefree, hair blowing in the breeze, not a cue or ration card in sight. For your wall, Ruslan says. You accept it like a medal. Out in the hallway, you pass a teacher wearing knockoff Adidas, 3 stripes, but the middle one is oddly short. You say nothing. He says nothing. But there's a shared understanding. Everyone wants in on the West, but no one admits it out loud. The only thing more dangerous than importing forbidden items is pretending you're above wanting them. Later that week, you see a girl at the tram stop wearing real denim, tight, stonewashed, and cuffed just so. She's chewing gum. Her lipstick is too red. You want to ask her where she got it all, but she's holding a Walkman. A Walkman. You almost weep. Another day, another story. Someone's uncle smuggled jeans across the border by wearing 5 pairs at once. A girl in your building traded a bicycle for a pair. Someone you know knows someone who once traded a Goosebumps book for Calvin Klein's. The babushka in the park is gone next week, replaced by a grizzled man selling thermoses that contain nothing but tea. You missed your chance. But now you're on a list. Not an official one. A whispered one. People who deal in denim tend to recognize each other. The way you look too long at a foreign logo. How you listen when someone mentions the Polish border. How your eyes flick to plastic bags from West Berlin. It's a strange thing, knowing that pants can get you arrested. Stranger still to realize they might be worth it. And as you fold the jeans and slip them under your mattress that night, you understand something that no textbook ever taught you. In a world of gray uniforms, a little blue thread is enough to start a quiet revolution. You're standing in the hallway of your building again, this time watching a man wrestle with a bulging suitcase. It's your neighbor's cousin's uncle. Yes, that's exactly how family trees work here, just back from a business trip to Bulgaria. He's sweating, cursing quietly, and trying not to let the zipper split. He's brought back the kind of things you can't find in any Soviet shop: Japanese watches, Hungarian boots, a suspicious number of chewing gum packs, and unbelievably, a tiny color television the size of a microwave lunchbox. Of course, none of it is his. He's what people call a chelnak, a shuttle trader. His life is a seesaw of visa stamps, border interrogations, and suitcases packed tighter than a cosmonaut's capsule. His skill lies in geometry. He can fit 6 VCRs, 4 radios, and a dozen bras into a single Samsonite without setting off a customs officer's spidey sense. This time, though, he overdid it. You help him drag the case into his apartment, while he mutters about how Turkish border guards are stricter than they used to be. His wife opens the door, eyes already wide. "Did you get the crayons?" she asks. "Not. Hello? Not. How was the train?" "Just crayons. Western crayons. The holy grail of kindergarten contraband." He did. He always does. Historians still debate whether the USSR's informal import-export market was a sign of crumbling control or proof of incredible citizen resilience. Either way, the rules were simple: don't ask too many questions, don't flaunt your loot, and never, ever, get greedy. You sit at their table, sipping compote while they sort the treasures. One pile for gifting, one for reselling, and one, tiny and trembling, for keeping. Among the items, a packet of German instant coffee, a Sony cassette, a Swiss Army knife, and a pair of pantyhose that shimmer like gold under the flickering kitchen light. The wife carefully tucks those away before her sister can ask for them. Everything here has meaning. Nothing is just a thing. The TV means you don't have to watch the state channels in grainy black and white anymore. The pantyhose? Status. The army knife? Security. The crayons? The chance for your kid to color with hues no one else in their class has ever seen. Your friend Roman once smuggled a color TV in pieces, one circuit board at a time. Took him 6 months. His father assembled it like a Soviet Frankenstein and mounted the antenna in their closet. It picked up Polish commercials. They used to crowd around and watch ads for margarine as if they were live performances from Broadway. You laugh remembering that. Roman's dad tearing up at a jingle for dish soap. So shiny, so modern, he whispered. Look how she smiles. She has no cues in her life. On the streets, suitcase traders are easy to spot. They have the gait of someone used to carrying secrets in their socks. You once saw a man peel off 2 layers of shirts and reveal an entire Adidas tracksuit beneath. Not fake, real, with the right stripes and everything. You start learning the signs: plastic bags with crisp logos, the glint of unauthorized zippers, the careful hush when someone says, Yugoslavia. That's where you go for Czech sneakers, Yugoslav denim, and Swedish razors if you know the right train. These smugglers aren't criminals, not really. They're mythmakers. Their suitcases are Narnia wardrobes, portals to another world, lined not with fur coats, but with Nescafe packets and cassette singles of modern talking. Sometimes, though, the state catches on. You remember the time Galia's brother vanished. Not arrested, just disappeared. He'd brought back too many American chewing gums. Sold them to the wrong buyer. Rumors flew: a jealous neighbor? A KGB sting? Someone at the kiosk with a grudge? The suitcase disappeared, too. So you learn to hide things. To be clever. One guy you know lines his suitcase with instant noodle packets, then hides a Polish Game Boy underneath them. The customs officer gets distracted by the noodles. It works. Usually. You once saw a man trade a Soviet camera for a single can of Heineken. It tastes like Amsterdam, he said, then threw the empty can on top of his wardrobe like a trophy. His wife dusted it weekly. It's about more than the item. It's about saying, I touched the West. And as you leave your neighbor's apartment that night, he slips something into your hand, quietly, without a word. You don't open it until you're home. It's a Bazooka Joe bubble gum, flattened, faded, still wrapped. The comic is in English. You can't read it, but you don't care. You chew slowly, reverently. It's hard and tastes like dust and sweetened plastic. Still, it's the best gum of your life. Because it's not just gum. It's a passport. A promise. A reminder that, suitcase by suitcase, piece by piece, a different world keeps slipping through the cracks. It's cold tonight. Your breath rises in little clouds as you walk down the back alley behind the polyclinic, following a boy with a bandaged hand and a shoelace for a belt. He says he knows a guy. A guy who sells Western music. Not records, those are too bulky, too obvious. No, what he has is more intimate. More disturbing. More genius. You turn the corner and meet him, a skinny man with a hunched back and a leather satchel. He looks like he's either a former chemist or a current fugitive. He reaches into the bag and pulls out a round, flexible disc. What is that? You whisper. He grins. X-ray. And indeed it is. A human ribcage glows faintly beneath the grooves. The record is translucent and eerie, like some ghostly medical file from a cursed hospital. On it, scrawled in inky cursive, is the name. The Beatles, yesterday. You blink. This is your first bone record, or, as they call it, Röntgen is that. Bootleg recordings etched onto discarded X-ray film. You're holding Western pop carved onto someone's spinal scan. And yes, it plays. On a turntable, it works just like a Rio record. As long as you don't mind that the needle occasionally skates across a femur. Historians still argue whether these were more a protest or a passion. Maybe both. Officially, music like this was banned. Rock and roll, jazz, punk, decadent capitalist noise, the authorities said. But underground, it was sacred. Dangerous. Alive. Your friend puts the disc on a battered portable player. It spins, slowly, and out comes Lennon's voice, crackling, ghostly, as if it's coming from the other side of the Iron Curtain itself. The lyrics don't matter. Half the people who listen don't even speak English. What matters is the tone, the defiance, the freedom in that first melancholic chord. You listen in silence, shoulders hunched, eyes wide. There's something terrifying about it, like you're eavesdropping on a forbidden prayer. Yet it's addictive. You want more. These records aren't sold in shops. They're passed hand to hand, traded for vodka, cigarettes, favors, or hard currency. They're sometimes cut into wonky circles with scissors, and they warp and heat, so you store them inside books, under floorboards, or sewn into coat linings. One guy you know uses dental x-rays. He says they make the best treble. Someone else swears by chest scans. More bass, he claims. Your uncle tells you that a man in Odessa was caught pressing the Dana singles onto a skull x-ray. The KGB confiscated the whole collection. Rumor has it the officer in charge later played them at a private party. You can't help but wonder whose bones are being used to bring you Bowie. Is that clavicle from an old teacher? That spine from a sailor? That fractured arm from a chess champion who once fell on ice? There's poetry in it. Unintentional, maybe, but powerful. In the USSR, music can't be downloaded. It can't be streamed. It must be fought for, duplicated in secret, hidden in the cavities of the dead. And not just music. There's a guy in your town who prints out American song lyrics on cigarette papers. The ink bleeds. The English is broken. But he sells them with pride. People memorize those lyrics phonetically, chanting nonsense syllables just to feel the rhythm of another language on their tongue. One night, your cousin brings home a mixtape from a diplomat's teenage daughter. It has Queen, the Rolling Stones, and something called Rick Astley. You all crowd around the tape deck like villagers around a fire. When Never Gonna Give You Up plays, someone cries. Not because of the lyrics, but because the tape crackles, the volume dips, and for a second, it sounds like a dream slipping away. You don't fully understand the music, but you know what it means, a different reality. A world with concerts, neon lights, carefree lyrics, and no cues for bread. The next day, you tried to find the Bone Record guy again. He's gone. Moved. Vanished. That's how it works. No phone numbers. No addresses. Just rumors and whispers. You still have the Beatles disc. It's under your bed, inside an old math textbook, tucked between pages 124 and 125. If anyone asks, it's educational material. And if they press, you'll lie. But tonight you listen again. You lower the needle. There's a crackle, a hiss, and then musical note. Yesterday, all my trouble seemed so far away. Musical note. And you wonder if the man whose bones this was pressed on ever danced to it. Or if this is the first time they've been free. You're standing in front of kiosk number 47 again, third in line behind an old woman with 3 onions and a loaf of rye bread, and a boy wearing socks as gloves. The kiosk is a squat, metal box with fogged-up glass and a peeling sign that just says, goods. Nothing specific. Everything and nothing. But if you know the right code words, some things become available. You practice it under your breath. Snow falls in May. That's the phrase. Not too early, not too loud. You heard it from your classmate's older brother, who heard it from a girl whose mother works for the Ministry of Fisheries. That's about as reliable as it gets. The woman ahead of you buys matches and cabbage seeds. The boy trades a few kopecks for sour cream in a plastic bag. Then it's your turn. The man inside the kiosk is grizzled and slumped, like he's halfway between retirement and being absorbed into the walls. He glances at you. Doesn't speak. Your mouth is dry. You lean in and say, carefully, snow falls in May. There's a pause. A click. His eyes shift once, side to side, and he disappears below the counter. When he comes back up, he's holding it, a glass bottle of Pepsi, The real thing, condensation already beating like tiny diamonds. You hand over the agreed payment, a ballpoint pen with a German logo, 2 foreign postage stamps, and a local enamel pin that says, Friendship of Nations. A fair trade. Pepsi in the USSR was a legend. The state officially struck a deal to bring it in during the late 70s, making it one of the first American products sold legally, but not widely. Not affordably. Not where you live. And certainly not chilled in a frosted bottle, as it is now in your trembling hands. Historians still argue whether Pepsi's presence in the USSR was a sign of warming relations or a PR stunt gone fizzy. Either way, it was unforgettable. Pepsi commercials promised you choice. Coolness. A man in jeans skateboarding on a California beach. That was practically an act of war. You step aside and crack the cap. It hisses. That sound alone is worth a week's ration. You take a sip. Syrupy, chemical, slightly flat, but it's everything you imagined. The boy in socks watches you with envy so intense you feel guilty. You offer him a sip. He declines. Pride. Inside the kiosk, the man is now dealing out other magic. A finished chocolate bar here. A used lipstick tube there. He's not even pretending to sell soap anymore. He's a gatekeeper. The black market doesn't always look like a thriller. Sometimes it looks like a man in fingerless gloves quietly exchanging boot polish for a cassette of Abigold. In the back alley behind the kiosk, kids are gathered around a man with a trench coat. He opens it, not to reveal watches, but labels. Just labels. Nike. Adidas. Puma. Embroidered tags, carefully removed from real Western clothing. You can buy one and sew it onto your Soviet jacket. You'll still be cold. Still poor. But when you walk by, people will see. And they'll believe. The phrase, snow falls in May, travels. It morphs. In another district you have to say, the crows fly backwards. In a different city it's, the oranges have teeth. The KGB could try to trace these phrases, but they change too fast, passed in notes, whispered in lines, scribbled inside dictionaries. You start to notice who knows. It's in the way they pause at a kiosk, glance at the seller, then leave without buying anything. Or how their bags crinkle just a little too brightly. Or the way they laugh, short, guarded, like they know a secret that could evaporate under fluorescent lighting. At home, you stash your Pepsi bottle behind a row of canned peas. Your father raises an eyebrow when he finds it. Doesn't say a word. Just pats your shoulder. Later that night, you hear him and your mother in the kitchen. A clink of glass. The fizz of something poured. A quiet murmur of, "Careful, not too much." You smile. Even parents need magic sometimes. The next day, you return to the kiosk. Kiosk number 47 is closed. Shuttered. A notice pinned to the metal door. Temporarily unavailable. No one says it out loud, but everyone knows someone talked. The man behind the glass never comes back. Someone else takes his place, selling matches and bread, no code words, no magic. You sip the last inch of Pepsi a week later. It's gone flat. But it still tastes like something foreign. Something earned. Something that made your dull world shimmer, just for a moment. And as you rinse the bottle and tuck it on your shelf like a trophy, you realize it doesn't matter that the kiosk is gone. Because now you know the code words. And in the USSR, knowledge like that is worth more than rubles. It's market day, which means people are pretending not to trade. Technically, the bazaar is for approved goods only, radishes, buttons, maybe some sanctioned embroidery floss. But if you walk past the piles of wilted greens and squint at the shadows between stalls, you'll notice the real economy humming beneath the surface. Today, you're looking for cologne. Not to wear. To trade. In the USSR, imported cologne bottles are the Swiss bank accounts of the barter world. It doesn't even matter if there's liquid inside. A glass bottle with a foreign label, Brut, Davidoff, Old Spice, carries more value than any actual money. Rubles might get you toilet paper, if you're lucky. A bottle of expired aqua velva? That'll buy you an Estonian wool sweater and half a rumor from Poland. You drift past stalls stacked with Soviet socks and boiled sausages, until you find your contact, a woman with unnaturally blonde hair, gold earrings, and a velvet pouch. She nods at you. Currency? She asks softly. You pull out your prize, a bottle of Yves Saint Laurent Kouros, gifted by a cousin of a friend who dated a stewardess. It's half full. The sticker is peeling. Still, it gleams like treasure. She examines it carefully, sniffs it once, then gestures to a brown cardboard box behind her. Inside is everything from VHS tapes to tampons. You spot a Finnish coat hanger, a pack of blue American razor blades, and a tin of Nescafe so old the label is in Latin. You point to a pair of leather gloves, real leather, not the waxy Soviet stuff that smells like sadness. She nods, accepts the trade, and the cologne is gone. That's how it goes. No receipts. No questions. Historians still debate whether this black market bartering system kept the USSR afloat, or quietly undermined it from within. Either way, it thrived. And everyone, from pensioners to party officials, played their part. You once saw a man trade a Spanish lighter for a tooth filling. Another time, your neighbor swapped a German harmonica for a jar of pickles and a dental appointment. Value is fluid here. Meaning is improvised. That same neighbor keeps empty Western bottles lined up like soldiers on his kitchen shelf. He dusts them every Sunday. His wife uses one to water the cactus. Their daughter turned another into a makeshift perfume sprayer by poking holes in the cap with a safety pin. Later that evening, you visit your friend Anton. He just got back from visiting an uncle in East Berlin. He's wearing a new shirt, short-sleeved, loud, covered in English words like breeze and chill. No one knows what the words mean, but everyone nods approvingly. Anton opens a drawer and shows you his collection. 5 empty Brut bottles, 2 unopened packets of Orbit, a broken Swiss Army knife, and a tiny Barbie shoe. Yes. Just the shoe. One high-heeled pink plastic thing, no doll. It's been traded 3 times already. He offers you the knife if you can find him a can of Western tuna. You laugh. That's a tall order. But not impossible. Your mother, for example, still has a tiny vial of Chanel No. 5. It's so old the scent's nearly gone. But when she dabs it behind her ears, your father calls her Paris. She smiles, and for a moment, the peeling wallpaper fades, and the kitchen light softens, and they forget where they are. There's a phrase people use, a Western thing. It doesn't mean useful. It means sacred. Not because it's better, but because it's proof that something else exists. That someone else, somewhere, made this with care, with color, with choice. You once saw a woman in line at the pharmacy trade an empty Rexona deodorant can for a pack of imported Band-Aids. No one blinked. Later, a man on the tram is carrying an old Gillette razor taped to his briefcase. Not hidden. Not displayed. Just there. Like a quiet challenge to the world. Even at school, the kids barter. Someone's older brother found a big pen, and suddenly every essay is being written in blue instead of standard black. The teacher frowns but doesn't confiscate it. Maybe she envies it. You hear rumors of people melting down foreign packaging just to reuse the plastic. A local artist once sculpted a bust of Lenin entirely from Western shampoo caps. It was banned before it could be exhibited. At the end of the day, you return home and place your new leather gloves next to your growing collection. A Snickers wrapper, a Wrigley's foil strip, a Sprite bottle cap, and a British chocolate tin with faded gold embossing. None of them serve any real function. But they whisper to you, night after night. They say, there's more. There's somewhere else. And it smells like brute and freedom. You're boarding the overnight train to Warsaw with a ticket that smells like mildew and bureaucracy. Your bunkmate is a babushka with a plastic headscarf tied so tightly you're not sure she can blink. She smiles as she wedges herself into the corner of the compartment and begins adjusting something under her coat. You try not to stare, but it's hard not to notice the squeak 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 sound coming from beneath her many layers. She's smuggling bras. 12 of them, to be exact. Taped to her stomach, arms, and back like secret compartments in a Cold War spy thriller. The elastic presses into her sides, the underwire makes her wince when she shifts, but she doesn't complain. This is her business. You like satin? She whispers, as the train begins to chug. Pardon? You ask, blinking. I have Italian satin. Size small to generous. No returns. Welcome to the glamorous underworld of fashion smugglers. In the USSR, Western clothes were the holy grail. Not just because they were better made, which they often were, but because they carried myth. They shimmered. They spoke English, even when you didn't. And if you wore them right, people noticed. That babushka, for example? She might look like a kindly cabbage seller, but she knows how to fold a La Perla brulette into a cigarette tin and can quote the customs declaration limits like a state prosecutor. Historians still argue whether the authorities truly believed they could suppress Western fashion, or if they simply wanted to control it. Either way, fashion was one of the few legal fronts where rebellion could still be worn on your body, and not shouted from a rooftop. You hear stories in the train corridor. One woman sewed Calvin Klein labels into her Soviet jeans to trick her date. A man smuggled leather belts and hollowed out books of Lenin's collected works. A girl once got caught hiding 12 pairs of Western tights under her skirt. She claimed it was weather-related. Your own suitcase isn't empty either. Nestled under a stack of approved souvenirs and newspapers is a box of West German socks and a Barbie knockoff with a horrifying face and real plastic heels. You're planning to trade it for a carton of Polish instant noodles and a rumored Spice Girls keychain. The train jerks and moans through the night. You lie back on your bunk, staring at the ceiling fans spinning in slow, dusty circles. Somewhere down the car, a baby cries. A man coughs in Morse code. Your babushka bunkmate is already asleep, snoring gently, bras pressing against her like warm body armor. You admire her. You also pity her. But mostly, you hope customs doesn't get curious. At the border, it's tense. Lights flash. Uniforms knock. A whistle blows. A customs officer steps into your compartment and sniffs. Literally sniffs. Anyone carrying Western goods? He asks. The babushka pretends to be deaf. You shrug and hand him a crossword puzzle book. He looks around, grunts, and moves on. You exhale. So does she. Quiet victory. Later, she opens her coat slightly and hands you one of the bras. For your girlfriend, she says. I don't have one. Then practice. You don't know what that means. Back in Moscow, you meet up with your friend Genya, who greets you in his new Adidas tracksuit, Rio 1, shiny and bright blue. You ask how he got it. Trained to Hungary. He shrugs. Pretended I was deaf and mute. Turns out no one asks questions if you look confused and carry a block of cheese. You laugh. In school, you see more signs of the fashion underground. A girl wearing Guess jeans with visible wear, proudly refusing to wash them in case the color fades. A boy with a torn Metallica t-shirt that he claims he got in East Paris, wherever that is. A teacher with a Lacoste scarf wrapped so tightly around her neck she barely breathes, but she glows with status. People don't just wear these things, they perform them. Your cousin once ironed his only pair of Levi's until they nearly melted. Crisp, he said. Must be crisp. Crisp is the signal. Even the knockoffs have value. You once bought a pair of Ribbok sneakers with 2 eyes and 4 stripes. Still better than the state-issued boots that feel like wearing bricks with laces. The babushka from the train vanishes back into her normal life. She'll reappear again next month, different train, different items. Maybe Austrian gloves. Maybe Danish underpants. Who knows? But tonight you slipped the smuggled bra into your drawer. Not for a girlfriend. Not for resale. Just because it's absurd, and precious, and not Soviet. It smells faintly of soap and sweat and something else. Possibility. You're brushing your teeth when the tap goes dry with a clank, a hiss, and the wheeze of a Soviet-era plumbing system giving up on life. Your toothbrush hangs in midair, foamy and useless. That's when you hear the knock. Not a friendly one. Rhythmic. Controlled. You freeze. Because around here, too much knocking means something else entirely. You wipe your mouth and peer through the peephole. Nothing but the shadow of a man in a gray coat. No badge. No smile. No good morning. You don't open the door. Because someone you know, someone who sold chewing gum and cassette tapes and maybe, just once, a copy of Playboy from 1983, hasn't been seen in 3 days. The walls are whispering again. The KGB didn't always arrive with a bang. Sometimes it was a sigh. A soft conversation that ended in silence. A neighbor. Transferred. A kiosk. Reassigned. A teacher. Retired early. Historians still argue whether most of the population believed in these disappearances or just accepted them the way you accept mold in the shower. Annoying, inevitable, possibly deadly. In your building, there's a boy named Igor. He had a Walkman once. Not even a real Sony, just a clunky knockoff that played bootleg Boney M tapes. But he let people borrow it. Charged a few kopecks per song. Then he started whispering about getting Western books, Jack London in English, a pulp novel with a cowboy on the cover. Last month, he vanished. They say his mother cried so hard, she fainted in the stairwell. They also say his father was probably involved. But no one says these things out loud. You learn to lower your voice when you talk about jeans. You hide your bone records under floorboards. You never ask where someone got their Snickers bar unless you really want to know. Paranoia here isn't a disease. It's a survival skill. The walls in your apartment are thin. You once heard your neighbor sneeze and then apologized through the wall. So when you're listening to Queen's Radio GAGA on your bootleg cassette, you keep the volume low. Very low. Still, you tape pillows to the vents. Just in case. In school, your literature teacher slips once, mentions a banned poet, blinks twice, then backtracks. The next day, she's gone. Official reason? Family emergency. Unofficial reason? She recited something that rhymed too well. You hear of a man who was arrested because he let a foreign tourist use his phone. Another because he subscribed to a Polish magazine. Another because he had a Pepsi bottle on his desk during a party meeting. These aren't stories. These are warnings. Even your grandmother knows the drill. She never writes down foreign names. She hides her Western tin boxes under her knitting basket. Once, when your cousin brought home a plastic comb from Austria, she made him bury the packaging in the garden. "There are ears in the potatoes," she said. The worst part? She wasn't joking. Yet despite all this, people still risk it. They still trade, smuggle, and whisper. Why? Because once you've tasted forbidden chewing gum, it's hard to go back to cabbage soup and chalk-flavored toothpaste. Your uncle had a friend, worked in state television. One day, he saw a Western music video by mistake. A 5-second clip. He said it was like staring into another planet. People dancing, laughing, not in gray coats, not with ration cards in hand. It broke something inside him. He started listening to Radio Free Europe on his roof with a coat hanger for an antenna. He never got caught. But he never looked at Soviet television the same way again. You start to understand that the real danger isn't the KGB, it's hope. Hope makes you take risks. Makes you carry bubble gum in your sock. Makes you stash Madonna lyrics in the back of your math notebook. Makes you knock once, pause, then twice on a stranger's door, just to see if they know what moonlight really means. Because hope whispers louder than fear. Still, you don't open the door when the man knocks again. Not this time. You wait until the footsteps fade, the echo vanishes, and the building goes back to humming quietly with damp, dusty, desperate normalcy. Then you return to your cassette player. You plug in your headphones. You press play. Freddie Mercury crackles through the static. All we hear is... You smile. The walls might whisper. But so do the songs. You're standing behind a trash bin outside the U.S. Embassy, pretending to look for a lost coin. The security guard has already given you the side eye twice, and a dog is sniffing you with judgmental precision. But you stay hunched, scanning the garbage. Why? Because you heard a rumor that the Americans threw out a Happy Meal toy last week. That's how bad it's gotten. And yes, this is a real place with real people doing real things, all in the hope of finding a Tamagotchi someone discarded, or an empty Pringles can, or, if you're lucky, a used McDonald's napkin with the golden arches still visible. In a country where choices are limited, even trash becomes treasure. There's a whole ecosystem of embassy dumpster foragers. You see them if you know what to look for. One guy pretends to be fixing a bike nearby. He's actually monitoring drop-offs. Another woman walks her dog past the same bin 5 times an hour. The dog's leash? Hollow, with compartments. You didn't even know that was possible. Historians still debate whether these scavenging efforts were acts of quiet rebellion or just creative desperation. Most agree it was both. You finally spot it, a small plastic bag, barely knotted, lying half-hidden beneath an old newspaper. Your hands move fast. You open it. Inside. One McDonald's ketchup packet, intact. A plastic straw wrapper from Coca-Cola. And be still your heart, a Burger King Kid's crown, folded, creased, but fully readable. You don't scream. But inside, your brain's doing somersaults. This crown is worth more than a fur hat. More than a month of meat rations. Because it proves that the West is real. And it wears cardboard crowns. You hold it like it's made of gold leaf and imported optimism. At home, you clean it with a damp cloth, flatten it between 2 dictionaries, Marx and Engels, naturally, and gently place it next to your growing museum of forbidden joy, a Wrigley's foil, a crumpled Bazooka Joe comic, a sticker that once said, "Made in Canada." Your friend Toma once found an empty shampoo bottle with English writing on it, Pantene Pro V. She turned it into a vase. Her mother burst into tears when she saw it. "It smells like Miami," she whispered. No one in the family had ever been to Miami. Trash tells stories. The Americans eat ketchup with everything. They drink coffee that doesn't come in granules. They throw away toys. Toys. Meanwhile, your cousin traded his winter gloves for half a Kinder Surprise capsule. No chocolate, just the yellow plastic shell. It now holds 5 sunflower seeds and a dried beetle he insists is lucky. One day, a guy named Alexei finds an actual Barbie shoe in a pile of discarded embassy wrapping paper. He puts it on a chain and wears it under his shirt. Says it helps him dream in color. You once overheard a janitor claim he found a peanut M&M stuck between 2 embassy paving stones. He cleaned it. Polished it. Didn't eat it. Just looked at it for weeks. That's how far it goes. You start to understand that it's not just about stuff, it's about imagination. Every bit of trash from the West becomes a window into a parallel dimension where people don't queue for cheese, Don't worry if their toilet paper rips mid-use, and definitely don't reuse birthday candles. At school, a girl brings in a torn wrapper that once held Hubba Bubba. Everyone takes turns smelling it. Some kids swear it cured their cold. Others just cry. You try not to laugh, because it's not funny. It's holy. Even the embassy staff know, probably. Some leave boxes more accessible than others. Some throw away magazines just a little too intact. Maybe they're helping. Or maybe they're just tired of seeing the same faces outside their bins every week. Your mother scolds you when she finds the crown. "This isn't clean," she says. "This isn't safe." You nod. Then put it back under your bed. Because tonight, when you close your eyes, you'll imagine a world where your lunch comes in a colorful box, where someone smiles when handing you food, and where cardboard hats don't have to be smuggled like state secrets. And that world, even if it's made of trash, is worth chasing. You're flipping through an old catalog, not a Soviet one with tractors and state-approved curtains, but a JCPenney catalog, creased and rescued from someone's uncle's girlfriend's trip to Vienna. It smells like perfume and betrayal. You can't read most of the English, but that's okay. You know what's important. The labels. Wrangler. Levi's. Nike. Reebok. Converse. Even the font seems rebellious. In the USSR, labels are a language of their own. You may not understand what "just do it" actually means, but you know it means not here. And that's enough. Your cousin has become a label dealer. That's right. Not clothes. Just the labels. He buys them off jackets, cuts them from smuggled goods, and even prints knockoffs in his school's forbidden after-hours silk screening club. For 3 rubles, you can get a slightly crooked Lacoste crocodile patch. For 10, a semi-authentic Calvin Klein tag still attached to the cardboard string. Some kids collect them in binders like trading cards. Your cousin even invented a rating system. 1 star equals printed at home using potato stamp. 2 stars equals real brand, but misspelled. 3 stars equals genuine, but stolen. 4 stars equals genuine and stolen from a Western child. You trade a spare Adidas patch for a pair of jeans your classmate stitched herself. They're made from curtains, but with that little blue tag on the pocket, you feel like a rock star. Historians still argue whether Soviet youths understood the meaning behind Western slogans. Probably not. But they didn't have to. It wasn't about grammar, it was about signal. You wore Levi's not to say, "America," but to scream, "Freedom," with your thighs. There's a boy in school who comes every day in the same Soviet parka, but the number of labels on it grows weekly. Puma on the sleeve, Fila on the chest, a crooked Gucci stitched onto the back that definitely wasn't there yesterday. People call him walking capitalism, and they mean it admiringly. One time, a teacher confiscated a knockoff Nike hoodie. Not because of the logo, but because the swoosh was upside down. That day, the school was divided into factions, the realists who said, "It's still cool," and the purists who insisted, "That's basically treason." You fall somewhere in the middle. You're currently sewing a guess? Patch onto your canvas backpack. Except you're not sure if the question mark is part of the brand or just embroidered confusion. Your grandmother catches you and shakes her head. What are you trying to guess? Where your next pair of shoes is coming from? You smile. She doesn't get it. Or maybe she does, and just wants to pretend you're still her innocent little dumpling. There's a black market dealer near the tram stop who specializes in logos only. His suitcase is lined with Velcro patches, all different sizes and degrees of legality. One guy bought a Playboy bunny patch and stitched it onto his work overalls. Another attached Tommy Hilfiger to his army boots. Functionally useless. Aesthetically revolutionary. You once saw a kid peel a Pepsi sticker off a bottle and carefully apply it to his bicycle. It didn't ride faster, but every time he pedaled past, someone whispered, "He knows someone." Even empty packaging becomes fashion. A girl at your school turned a Twix wrapper into earrings. They shimmered under the fluorescent lights and made her look like royalty. Or at least like someone who'd touched royalty. Or maybe someone who ate sugar that wasn't in powder form. Some people start inventing fake brands entirely. One jacket reads, Dougie. Another says, Nike, in Comic Sans. There's a rumor that a boy in Minsk is starting a fictional brand empire called Snox, and it's catching on because no one can tell what's real anyway. And honestly, no one cares. Because even the illusion of the West holds power. A fake label, worn confidently, can get you into the cool group. A misspelled brand can get you a dance at the school disco. A sticker can change your fate. At home, you now have a drawer full of tags, labels, and iron-on transfers. Some real, some fake, some gifted, some bought in alleyways. You sort them like precious stamps. Some kids have coins. You have capitalism in patch form. Your father sees you one day, arranging them by brand prestige. He doesn't scold you. He just mutters, "They're just words on cloth." You nod. But you both know better. They're passports. They're dreams. And they're stitched into your future, one crooked patch at a time. You're sweating. Not because it's hot, though it is, but because you're standing at the Soviet border crossing with your duffel bag full of sins and a customs officer staring straight through your soul. He's big. Built like a wardrobe. The kind of man who hasn't smiled since Khrushchev got booted. He grunts. Waves you forward. Inside your bag, a pair of imported headphones, a cassette tape with ABBA, scrawled in blue ink, and the crown jewel, a black and gold Sharp GF 9191 boombox, hidden under layers of socks and carefully rolled newspapers. You rehearse the story. It's a gift. It's broken. It's not mine. The officer begins unpacking. Socks. Toothpaste. T-shirts. He's getting close. Very close. You can hear your pulse in your ears. Then, there it is. The corner of the boombox peeks out. He stops. Taps it with one meaty finger. Western? You swallow. Japanese? That seems to satisfy him. For now. Historians still debate whether customs officers truly believed their job was to protect the motherland from boom-boom music and shoulder-padded anarchy, or if they were just jealous of the gear. Probably both. In any case, the boombox stays in your bag. You make it through. Later that day, you meet your friend Victor at the edge of the park. You open the bag like it's a holy relic. The boombox gleams in the sunlight. Chrome buttons. Double cassette deck. Equalizer. An antenna so long it might accidentally pick up signals from Saturn. Put in Boney M, Victor says. You do. The tape clicks in, and then, magic. Musical note. R.A.R.A. Rasputin. Musical note. People stop walking. Heads turn. A girl 2 benches away gasps. This is real. This is loud. This is Western music, playing publicly. In stereo. You feel like you've committed a minor miracle. Boomboxes weren't just tech. They were status symbols. Mobile concerts. Portable revolutions. Carrying one in public was like slapping the state with a glittery glove. You once heard of a guy in Novosibirsk who wore his on his shoulder all summer. Didn't even play music, just wanted people to see it. Your friend Lena tells you about her cousin who painted Sony on a wooden box and walked around pretending it was real. Nobody questioned it. The illusion was enough. Labels are one thing. But sound, that's dangerous. Music travels. Infects. Unites. The authorities tried to stop it. They launched campaigns. Western music rots the brain. Posters screamed. Boombox equals bourgeois mindset. Yet somehow, the devices kept coming in, hidden in diplomatic shipments, snuck in piece by piece, or bribed through the border by someone's uncle with connections. You once saw a guy at a street fair sell AA batteries for 3 days straight. No boombox in sight. But everyone knew he was the plug. The battery man. The enabler of noise. You and Victor carry the boombox like a throne through the underpass to your building. A group of younger kids follows you. One of them tries to touch it. You let him, for a price. A button from his coat. Fair trade. At home, you set it on the table like a new family member. Your mother shakes her head. It's loud. Your father raises an eyebrow. It's beautiful. He presses play. Out comes modern talking. You watch your parents pretend they're not dancing in the kitchen. Later, the neighbors knock. Not to complain, but to listen. You host an impromptu concert. 10 people. 1 boombox. 0 fear. But it can't last. The next week, you hear that someone was stopped on the metro. Boombox in hand. The officer said it looked too confident. Confiscated. You start carrying yours in a potato sack, with a fake zipper and a hole for the speaker. You wear it like a backpack. You're nervous, but also thrilled. Even when it breaks, because of course it does, you keep it. Victor helps you fix it using a toothbrush, a paperclip, and chewing gum. You don't ask where he learned that. That summer, you become the boombox guy. You walk slow. You collect songs. You let others hear. You become the soundtrack of your neighborhood. One day, a stranger stops you. Got wham? He asks. You nod. Cassette for cassette, he says, pulling out a tape labeled The Cure. You trade. You listen. You cry. Because now your world has grown by one more sound. One more beat. One more whisper of a life that's louder, freer, not gray. And all because you dared to carry something that buzzed with batteries and hope. You open a padded envelope from West Germany, addressed in perfect block letters to your building's creaky postbox. No stamps. No return address. Just your name, your city, and a miracle inside. It's from your pen pal, a boy named Lucas who you've never met, never spoken to, and may not even be real. But he sends gifts. Not big ones. Little things. A postcard of a mountain village. A candy wrapper. A folded newspaper clipping of a rollerblader in neon shorts. But this time, he sent bubble wrap. Not as packaging. As the gift. You run your fingers over the plastic bubbles. You've never seen anything like it. It's soft, weightless, and completely useless. Which makes it priceless. You pop one. It sounds like freedom. In the USSR, international pen pals were more than cultural exchanges. They were smuggling operations wrapped in stationery. The official term was druzhba, friendship. But unofficially, you're part of a sprawling, unofficial import network powered by schoolchildren and postage. Historians still argue whether the Soviet state encouraged pen pals to create global goodwill, or to monitor the youth's ideological exposure. Either way, it was a loophole. And people like you? You sprinted through it. Your friend Tanya once received a stick of gum and a glitter sticker of Mickey Mouse. She burst into tears. Then her mother made her hide it under the kitchen tiles. Another boy got a comic book. He spent a full year translating it using a Russian English dictionary and a dangerous amount of imagination. He now speaks fluent Marvel. You've sent Lucas 2 landscape paintings, a wooden bookmark, and a hand-drawn picture of your building that looks like a smudged jail cell. You wonder if he understands. You wonder if he exists. Still, every few months, the envelope arrives. Sometimes it has color photos. Real ones, printed on glossy paper. A beach. A park. A banana, half-eaten. You stared at that photo for 2 hours. Not because of the fruit, but because of the casual smile on the man holding it. He wasn't cold, or waiting in line, or surrounded by gray. He was just living. One time, Lucas sent you a McDonald's napkin with the logo perfectly preserved. Your dad almost framed it. Another time, a plastic keychain, a translucent heart filled with tiny silver stars. You gave it to your sister. She tied it to her school bag, and now the teacher calls her American Spy Girl. She loves it. You once asked for chocolate. Instead, Lucas sent you a packet of mustard and a photo of a chocolate fountain. You respected the effort. There's a girl in your class whose pen pal sent her a CD. She doesn't have a CD player. No one does. But she wears it on a ribbon like a necklace. It catches the light in science class and blinds the teacher briefly. The class applauds. Some of the letters are censored. You can tell because whole paragraphs are missing or replaced with, in red pen. Once, a drawing of a sailboat arrived with the sails snipped out. Apparently, freedom of navigation is also monitored. Still, the pen pal pipeline is strong. Children become couriers. Envelopes become artifacts. You learn the limits. No maps. No religious symbols. No political jokes. No Coca-Cola logos larger than 4 centimeters. But you also learn how to cheat them. Your friend Yuri once reassembled a censored comic by requesting it 1 panel per letter. Took 11 months. Totally worth it. You start writing more carefully, hinting without saying. It's cold here. Means, we're short on heating oil. My shoes are tired. Means, please send socks. Do you have cats? Means, do you have cats, and also stickers, and also gum? Once you tape a US postage stamp to your notebook. You don't even know who the man is, some president with a frown. But he becomes your notebook's patron saint. Your pen pal stops writing for a while. No envelope. No Lucas. You start to worry. Then, one gray Tuesday it arrives. Thicker than usual. Inside, a crumpled postcard of the Berlin Wall, half painted in graffiti. A folded paper airplane made from something called People magazine. And impossibly, a Polaroid of Lucas. He's holding a sign that says, in shaky blue ink, "Do you get these? I hope yes." You cry. You don't know why. Maybe it's because someone far away thought of you. Maybe it's because the photo isn't censored. Maybe it's because the bubble wrap still smells faintly like cinnamon. But you realize this, the things he sends aren't important. It's the fact that he sends them. In a world where you can't go anywhere, where even your socks are monitored, a stranger's envelope becomes your spaceship. And bubble wrap? That's just the sound it makes when dreams arrive safely. You're standing in line at the grocery store, holding a sack of potatoes and a ration card, when you spot it, a plastic shopping bag. But not just any plastic bag. This one has the unmistakable red and white Marlboro logo, creased, glossy, fluttering gently in the stale air like a royal banner in exile. You stare. The woman holding it sees you seeing it. Her lips curl slightly. A smirk. She knows what she's carrying. In the USSR, plastic bags from the West are more than just functional. They're status symbols. They're reused, repaired, ironed, yes, ironed, and sometimes even inherited. You once heard of a man who laminated his. Historians still debate whether the obsession came from deprivation or from sheer aesthetic hunger. The bags were colorful, sturdy, and most importantly, foreign. In a world of gray burlap and brown paper, Western plastic was magic. You ask your mother if she's ever owned one. She sighs. Once. A Benetton bag. I used it for 4 years. Then your father spilled borscht on it and pretended it was art. You nod solemnly. That tracks. Your friend Anya has a Dior bag with a ripped handle. She carries her schoolbooks in it like she's walking down a Parisian boulevard instead of trudging through slush and galoshes. Kids at school whisper about it. Some say it came from France. Others say her uncle printed it himself on a stolen mimeograph machine. Either way, it shines. You finally get your hands on one. Not a fancy one. Just a Marks and Spencer bag with faded green text and a tiny hole in the corner. You traded a jar of pickled mushrooms and a semi-working flashlight for it. Totally worth it. You bring it home like a trophy. Your grandmother immediately folds it and puts it in the good drawer. You never see it again. That's the problem with status bags. Everyone wants to use them, but no one wants to wear them out. They become Schrodinger's possessions, simultaneously valuable because they're used and more valuable because they're not. You once saw a man at the market carrying a Harrods bag that had been patched 3 times. Duct tape. Stapled seams. A corner reinforced with Scotch tape, and what looked like a band-aid. You saluted him. At school, someone makes a joke. What do you call a Soviet millionaire? What? Someone who owns a Levi's bag and uses it for groceries. You laugh, but it's a nervous laugh. Your cousin begins collecting them. Not the bags themselves, too risky, but photos of them. He has a whole scrapbook. There's a Coca-Cola bag spotted on the metro in '89. A Shell oil bag used as a gym sack. A Chanel bag at a wedding, being used to hold an actual baby. They're beautiful. You once tried to replicate the look. Took a white Soviet bag and drew a Burger King logo on it with red pen. It bled. People squinted. One old man called you brave. Another called you an idiot. Maybe both were right. The thing about these bags is that they whisper. Not just, I've been abroad, but, I touched something better. Even if that something was just duty-free soap and a Toblerone. Your friend Dimitri claims he once used a Tesco bag to bluff his way into a fancy restaurant. The hostess saw it and assumed he was someone important. He got a free tea. Was it true? Maybe not. But truth is less important than vibe. Eventually your own bag starts to wear. The letters fade. The hole widens. You panic. You try to preserve it. Wash it gently. Iron it between dish towels. Your mother catches you and says, "We used to do this for linens." You don't care. The bag is yours. Your little rectangle of polyethylene prestige. One day it's gone. You check everywhere. Under the bed. Behind the radiator. In the good drawer. Nothing. Later, your sister walks in carrying it like it's no big deal, stuffed with potatoes. You scream internally. She shrugs. It's just a bag. You consider exile. But then something shifts. You realize the bag was used. It lived. It did what it was made to do. It wasn't just a shrine, it was part of life. Soviet, Western, mashed together in a dance of utility and absurd reverence. You rescue it from the floor. Wipe off the dirt. Fold it. And hang it on your wall with a pushpin. It flutters slightly when the windows open. And you smile. Because in a country where even thoughts are rationed, that crinkly, foreign, fading bag still manages to say something subversive. It says, you had something real. Even if it was just plastic. You're walking past Lenin's statue in the city square, your collar up against the wind and your fake Ray-Bans fogging with every breath. The lenses are scratched. The logo is upside down. The frame's bent like a philosophical question. But still you strut. Because today, you're wearing the full look. Faded Levi's stitched by your aunt using 3 different kinds of thread. A knockoff Adidas track jacket with the stripes slightly off-center. And a pair of shoes that might be Converse or might be leftover circus supplies. No one's quite sure. But it doesn't matter. Because when you walk past the kiosks, the long gray queue for mayonnaise, and the cluster of pigeons huddled like party members, people look. Not with admiration exactly, but with curiosity, envy, suspicion. You are the parade of fakes. Historians still debate whether the obsession with Western brands turned the Soviet youth into consumerist drones, or if it was just a desperate attempt to feel visible. What's clear is this: in a country where real jeans were rarer than decent bananas, a good fake could make you a legend. You remember your first bootleg sweater. It said Reebok across the front, the letters in Comic Sans, and a little kangaroo stitched in for no reason. You wore it proudly until it unraveled in gym class. Worth every thread. There's an art to the fake. Your neighbor Yuri once painted a Nike swoosh on his sneakers with white out. Your classmate Tamara added rhinestones to a denim vest and told everyone it was Los Angeles couture. No one questioned her. Fakes weren't fooling anyone. That wasn't the point. The point was participation. Wearing a knockoff was a way to say, I'm in the game too. Even if you're holding the controller upside down. One guy in your building sews two brands together. His hoodie says Adidas Levi's and features a panda eating spaghetti. Avant-garde, you tell him. He nods. Limited edition, he replies. A girl at your school comes in wearing what is clearly a raincoat made from plastic tablecloth material. But it has a stitch tag that says Gap. People gasp. A younger boy shows up with a backpack that lights up. It blinks the word booze across the back. Not boss. Booze. You compliment him. He thanks you with the solemnity of someone who knows they peaked. Eventually, you start seeing the parade everywhere. The plumber with a Gucci cap that's actually just a baseball hat with glued-on sequins. The metro conductor with a Puma windbreaker that features a leaping rabbit. The kiosk vendor with a Hello Kitty apron, but the cat is frowning and holding a hammer. Some people start collecting them. There's a man in your neighborhood with a wall of fakes, hung up like medals. This one's from Odessa, he says, pointing to a neon green Versace scarf. And this, holding a pair of socks labeled Dolce & Gabbana, was worn once by a man who swam across the Danube. You don't question it. Fake items start developing their own mythologies. Some believe certain knockoffs are luckier than others. A bootleg Casio watch that always runs 5 minutes fast becomes a talisman. A pair of Levi's jeans are rumored to have been stitched using Western threads smuggled in through Finland. You once saw a girl trade kisses for a knockoff handbag that read, Mickey Mouse Paris. The mouse had fangs. There's a joke floating around. What's better than a Rolex? What? A Polex. Cheaper, louder, and tells you exactly what the state wants you to hear. You laugh every time. Eventually, you become a kind of connoisseur. You can spot a fake at 20 paces. You know the difference between 3 Adidas stripes and the knockoff Abibas variant. You develop a strange pride in it. Because being able to tell means you know. And knowing is power. Your parents used to scold you for buying these things. You look ridiculous, they'd say. Now, your mother's wearing knockoff Clinique face cream called Clinique. Your father keeps his documents in a Calvin Klein wallet. Everyone joins the parade. But here's the quiet truth. Fakes are more honest than the system that made them necessary. They admit what they are. They speak of longing, of creativity, of refusal to disappear into the sameness of state issue and sensible shoes. One day, you receive a real item. A cousin sends you an authentic Levi's denim jacket. The tag is stiff, the smell foreign. You try it on. It fits. But something feels odd. Too perfect. Too untouchable. You fold it carefully, place it in a drawer, and go back to wearing your patched up Levi's, with the red ink smeared just enough to be charming. Because sometimes, almost is better. And as you pass Lenin's statue once more, Your upside-down Ray-Bans catching the late afternoon sun, you smile. Not because you fooled anyone, but because you stopped needing to. You're sitting on a park bench, your hands trembling slightly as you peel the wrapper off a Snickers bar. The sun is low. The breeze smells faintly of damp stone and boiled cabbage. And yet, in this moment, you feel like a god. It's real. A real Snickers. Imported. Contraband. Possibly expired. Worth more than your boots. You hold it like it might vanish. You've heard stories, of course. Everyone has. The kid who took one bite and fainted. The grandmother who kept hers in the freezer for 10 years. The man who proposed to his wife with one. The Snickers is legend, myth, Western decadence condensed into nougat and peanuts. You take a bite. It's chewy. Too sweet. Absolutely ridiculous. Delicious. And you cry. Because you finally made it. You don't even know who smuggled it in. You traded a Zippo lighter and a nearly functional flashlight radio for it, passed through 3 hands before it reached yours. When you opened the packaging, it let out a crinkle so sharp it felt like a protest. In the USSR, this isn't just candy. This is a crime scene. A revolution in a foil wrapper. Historians still debate whether the craving for Western products was a sign of moral decay or proof that people were just tired of kefir and shame. Some argue that longing for chocolate was shallow. But those people probably had access to it. Because for you, this Snickers isn't just food, it's victory. It's what you imagined America tastes like. Sticky, indulgent, and completely unnecessary. You look around. No one's watching. Or maybe they are. You eat anyway. The chocolate melts just a little in your hand. The nougat sticks to your teeth. You swear you feel caffeine enter your bloodstream like a jazz solo. You're not the only one. Your friend Kostya once said, "If I ever eat a real Mars bar, I'll never speak Russian again." He got one. He still speaks Russian. But now with a strange British accent. You know a woman who kept the cardboard box from a shipment of Twix and cut it into wall art. Her husband laminated it. Their son kissed it before exams. People frame the wrappers. Display them like medals. Trade them like currency. You once saw a guy offer a worn Snickers wrapper in exchange for a haircut. The barber accepted. It's hard to explain this to outsiders. How a candy bar becomes more than sugar. How every bite tastes like defiance. Like color. Like something uncontrolled. The state never banned Snickers officially. They didn't have to. It simply wasn't available. That made it powerful. Untouchable. Something that whispered, "There's more out there." You start to feel it in other places too. A bite of chocolate turns into a memory of a movie you weren't allowed to see. A beat from a cassette you weren't supposed to own. A scent from a perfume bottle tucked under your grandmother's bed. Everything forbidden has that same flavor. You save the wrapper. Of course you do. You fold it carefully. Press it flat between 2 books. You consider framing it. Maybe one day, your kids will see it and say, "Wow, you were there. You tasted it." And you'll nod. And smile. Because you did. You remember when all this was just rumor. When your cousin came home whispering about a cousin's friend's neighbor who had tried a Milky Way. "It was soft," he said. "Like luxury bread." You remember when a woman was rumored to have eaten a Twinkie. The neighborhood debated for weeks whether or not it had molded. No one cared. You remember the first time you touched foil that wasn't made for sardines. You remember the taste. And now, sitting in the park with the wrapper fluttering slightly in the wind, you finally understand why people took the risk. Why they smuggled, and whispered, and traded bras on trains, and wrote letters to strangers across oceans. Not for sugar. For the idea that there is a world where you don't have to ask permission to eat something sweet. That maybe, just maybe, freedom can come in caramel form. And now, as the sun sets behind the gray rooftops, as the light fades from concrete walls and clings briefly to that shimmering piece of candy wrapper still clutched in your hand, you let the noise of the day dissolve. The cues, the whispers, the trades in alleyways, the hiss of forbidden cassette tapes, all of it melts like chocolate on a warm tongue. Your shoulders soften. Your breath slows. Your fingers relax from the tight clutch they've held around those symbols of something more, those plastic bags, those stitched-on labels, those empty perfume bottles that still somehow hold a dream. You rest your head back against the park bench. The statue of Lenin watches silently. The pigeons have gone quiet. A child laughs distantly in the corridor of some apartment block, and even that seems wrapped in velvet now. This strange journey, woven through hidden pockets and hand-sewn seams, was never really about the West, or brands, or bubble wrap. It was always about the need for color in a colorless world, about the hunger for choice, and the courage to chase it, however quietly. And so, tonight, you tuck away the candy wrapper. You fold it neatly. You place it under your pillow, like a passport to a dreamland that smells like imported soap and sounds like a pop song played through static. Let it all fade now. The noise. The need. The gravity of it. Let the world grow soft and blurred. Because you made it. You tasted it. And that's enough for now. Close your eyes, friend. Let the night hold you gently. Sleep well. Sweet dreams.